The Dallas Cowboys made an absolutely shocking trade over the weekend. What do we think about the move? All that and more this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, the Dallas Cowboys had a very nice preseason win over the Raiders in week 3. But that's not the storyline from over the weekend. It's the Dallas Cowboys trading for Trey Lance. They gave up a 4th-round pick in 2024. What was your initial reaction when you heard about the news?
Honestly, I think my initial reaction was the cartoon-esque, like looking at it, doing the double take, and then classically rubbing my eyes to make sure that I read it correctly. I was shocked. I mean, I wasn't shocked to see him being traded. And I certainly felt like I heard a couple different places, including Minnesota and some other spots that like I had heard had been interested. That I felt like were good spots, and I remember thinking to myself when the whole situation was going, I was like, man, it'd be really great to see him go to a team that has an established veteran that he could go back up and just kind of reset on his career a little bit more. And suddenly it's the Dallas Cowboys. So, I mean, honestly, there's so many angles on this. Like I was kind of just simply overwhelmed by, once it really sunk in that it was happening.
Let's talk about the general philosophy of trading like a day 3 pick for a quarterback like this, because I think in a vacuum, I love it, right? Because it's not very often you get these type of quarterbacks on, with a day 3 pick, with the salary that he has, right? Because it's really, I think my math is correct. It's like $6.5 million total like over 2 years. Is that right? It's just a dart throw at the most important position, and a pick that, as we're seeing with cut downs, like the Cowboys are going to cut a bunch of 4th-round picks this year. They're going to cut second, 3rd round guys. So the draft pick doesn't bother me at all. It's just, I thought Lance needed to go to a situation where he could play, because he has less than 500 career passing attempts from high school, college, in the NFL. But now that preseason's over and we're into the regular season, like how much is he really going to get to develop in Dallas?
Well, I mean, I think it's a long-term play, and I think that maybe that's the situation that he needed. Look, I mean, I don't disagree that I think playtime is going to be important for him, but I also think that this is a guy that, coming off of an ankle injury, very similar to what Dak dealt with, a year and a half ago. I think it was a tad bit much to ask him to try to go into a rehab situation and try to, play to compete for a spot. And I think there is just no perfect situation for what Trey Lance needs, right? Like, if you need to like play to get better, like there's just aren't a lot of teams out there that are willing to be patient and long-term develop, or that, even if they did want to be patient, that would have general managers that would be able to hang around the team long enough to keep you around. So I think that as good as any situation as he's going to get, the Cowboys is, simply because you're right. He definitely needs to get on the field, and he definitely needs to play. But I think the first thing he needs to do is take a step back. And first thing he needs to do is get all the way healthy, and then, maybe kind of tweak some mechanics stuff a little bit. And then, you go out there and you give him a ton. Look, all the preseason snaps this year were up for grabs, and you really didn't even want to play Cooper Rush that much because you didn't want him to get hurt. All those snaps are going to go to Trey Lance next year, right? And that's going to be an opportunity for him. And in the meantime, what he does is that he practices with the team, he works out, he gets things tweaked, and he provides for you a really great scout team quarterback. I mean, a really, really great scout team quarterback,
especially when you play the Eagles, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that it makes a lot of sense. I don't disagree with you. I think the best thing for Trey Lance would be to go to a situation where he could get lots of leeway to play for a long time. I just don't know that place exists currently this season in the NFL.
I'm actually going to zag a little bit. I think this is a perfect spot for him to develop because, yes, everybody's talking about Trey Lance and the Cowboys and why did the Cowboys give up so much to get him, which, by the way, they did not give up a lot to get him. A fourth-round pick is nothing. Everybody's talking about Lance now, but 2 weeks from now when the Cowboys play the Giants on Sunday Night Football, nobody's going to be talking about Trey Lance, right? It's a perfect situation for him to sit back, not be pressured into playing, not be pressured to be the backup, work on his fundamentals, get healthier, and then we'll see in 2024 what he can do if he can rise up the depth chart. But the problem is if he was in San Francisco, when you're the former number 3 overall pick, you just keep wondering, okay, when are they going to play him? When are they going to play him? Should he be playing over Sam Darnold? Should he be playing over Brock Purdy? But now he's sitting behind Dak. No sane person is going to make an argument that he should play over Dak, right? I know there's going to be people out there.
There will be people making the argument, but no sane person would.
Right. So he gets to just focus on getting better without any pressure to perform this year. And that's probably just what he needs. And Mike McCarthy does have a really good track record of developing quarterbacks. But if you want to throw out Aaron Rodgers, that's fine. Whatever. Like, I get it. But he's even made, somebody like Matt Flynn a viable NFL quarterback and several other guys. So I do think this is a good landing spot for Lance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, for all the things you just pointed out, the pressure's off of him. This is a guy that needed development, and he's going to a spot where he actually can, one of the true places left in the NFL where you can actually get some development, and being a third quarterback now that this new quarterback rule is in place. Look, I think that the new quarterback rule also kind of helps things here a lot, right? So, I think this is a great situation for the Cowboys. I don't think it was an overpay or that they paid too much at all. I think they paid an appropriate amount for a guy that they got incredible value for. If it works out, like, it's incredible. It's amazing. Yeah. It's Dak Prescott in the 4th round. I'll
tell you how the Cowboys would like this to work out. I think in an ideal world, he gets healthy, he reworks his footwork, and he just dominates in the preseason next year, and you're able to flip him for a 2nd-round pick plus, right? Sure. Like, that's how the Dallas Cowboys would love to have this work out. There is like a non-0% chance that Dak Prescott gets hurt for a length of time and Lance comes in and plays really well, and then you're able to trade him this offseason. Like, there's just so many ways that this move could work out for Dallas that it's worth a 4th-round pick. I will say the other thing that actually makes me feel good about this trade is you're starting to hear who the other teams were that were kind of after Lance, which was the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, like teams that know what they're doing when it comes to like roster construction. I just think it's a smart move to go trade for a guy that has this much talent.
Yeah, and 2 other teams that clearly have established quarterbacks as well.
Just pay them.
That aren't afraid to go out and get a guy like this to back him up. Yeah, just to put a point on it, this has nothing to do with Dak and his contract or re-signing. I mean, look, I understand people don't want to necessarily believe Jerry and Steven when they say stuff like that, but like, they could have easily him and hawed this a lot more than they did. They were very clear cut. This has 0 to do with the Dak Prescott, that they want to re-sign Dak Prescott. So
they were hunting quarterbacks in last year's draft or the 2023, this year's draft, right? And it just worked out that a lot of guys that they were hoping to get like in the 5th and 6th round, Clayton Tune, even Stetson Bennett a little bit, like all those guys went in the 5th round. Aiden O'Connell went at the end of the 4th round.
I was going to say, the guy we just played.
Yeah, all those quarterbacks that the Cowboys were interested, Jake Haener, all kind of went in a range between the Cowboys' 4th and 5th round picks. They've been talking about for a while, trying to develop, a guy on day 3. You just took you traded for a quarterback that is far more talented than any quarterback you're ever going to get on day 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just don't get this kind of caliber of quarterback for what they paid for it. It was a rare opportunity, and that's why the Cowboys had to pull the trigger when they did. And then throw in a little bit more to make sure they got the continued opportunity.
All right, Lana, let's talk about the preseason game because there were some pretty clear winners, especially on the offensive side of the ball that we will get to next. This episode is brought to you by Underdog. August is here, and you know what that means. It is the official start of fantasy football drafting month. Get championship ready for your home league by trying out Best Ball on Underdog Fantasy. All you do is one live snake draft, no waivers, no trades. Underdog will set your best lineup every week. Try it out with Underdog's Best Ball Mania tournament. The largest fantasy football contest of all time is back. It's bigger than ever, with $15 million of total prizes up for grabs, including an absurd $3 million going to the winner. Last year, the winner actually drafted their team in July. So don't wait around. Get them done right now. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store and sign up with promo code LOCKEDON to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. That is Underdog Fantasy promo code LOCKEDON. All right, Landon, let's talk about some of the winners on the offensive side of the ball for the Cowboys. We've got to at least start with Will Grier.
Yeah.
I couldn't be more happy for Will Grier. What a performance by him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just, considering everything that was on his, mind emotionally, I mean, clearly it's not even just that he, knows that he lost his job. I mean, he's been with the team for 3 years. He's made really close friends. I mean, him and Dak, have been doing those team-wide trips. He goes with Dak on those, and that include the wide receivers and the skill guys. And it was an emotional situation. And so he went out there knowing that this was an opportunity. And look, beyond the performance was just absolutely incredible. We'll talk about that, but his attitude going into the situation and understanding that it was an audition and that it was an opportunity, that's going to go a long way with NFL teams, right? That they're going to love that. And then for him to go out and score 4 touchdowns and throw for 300 yards and do all the things that he did, despite Dak calling the plays for him, some people were saying was
a bit.
Yeah, it was. It was impressive, and I think it would really. I think that it's going to earn him a backup spot. Not even just a third string. I think likely there's going to be some team that saw what he did and be impressed and maybe bring him in to compete for a backup.
I just know from looking at Twitter last night, like when people were watching the game, like he's better than our backup. I know the Cincinnati Bengals fans I saw were saying, hey, he could come right in and be better than what we have behind Joe Burrow. So for Will Grier's sake, I hope that he finds a good home. I actually would love to see the Cowboys trade him to a destination where he could be a backup. I mean, you're just not going to get anything from him because everybody knows you're going to cut him, but get Will Grier.
But maybe you do. Maybe someone that's desperate to get him because they don't want to compete with on the waivers, so maybe they trade just like a 7th round pick.
That's what I mean. Yeah. I want Will Grier to have success. He's been a great 3rd string quarterback. So I just thought that was a really cool moment. I maybe really root for a guy that I knew wasn't going to make the 53-man roster, which is, really hard to do here in the preseason. But let's talk about some other players who do have a shot to make the 53-man roster. Your guy, Hunter Luepke. Please go ahead. The floor is yours.
It was just great to kind of see him get opportunities. I mean, honestly, I feel like that's really been the big issue. It does feel like they've been hiding him, right? And so they kind of got to a spot where, Rico Gathers did it again. Rico Gathers didn't dress either, guys. He didn't play, but Rico Dowdle also didn't play, didn't dress. So you knew that Davis and Luepke were going to get a ton of play. And it was mostly Luepke, especially early. And you kind of saw what everyone was excited about. He's physical. He's got a little bit of shiftiness to him. He's got a very versatile skill set. I mean, you saw him picking up blitz pickups. You saw him running routes out into the flat and catching the ball over his shoulder. You saw him running over guys in short yardage situations. You saw him, getting through the hole and then making side steps around guys around with dirt around his feet or trash on his feet rather. You just got an opportunity to see him do a little bit of everything, and you add that into the fact that it sounds like he's a pretty decent special teams player. Hunter Luepke's on this team one way or another. I don't know if it'll be on the 53-man roster or not. We'll see. But I imagine that if he clears waivers, he's going to be a practice squad player. I wouldn't be surprised if he was on the 53-man roster. And if he isn't, I will be surprised if he isn't a practice squad player who gets called up almost immediately with the chance of being called up to the 53-man roster a little bit later in the season.
And that's my guess. What happens is he's somebody that gets – I expect him to clear waivers just because he's an undrafted free agent who outside of week 3 of the preseason didn't do a lot, right? So you put him on the practice squad, then you just pull him up depending on the game, depending on injuries. And I think he's somebody that you look forward to in 2024 to maybe be the third running back on your team if Rico Dowdle doesn't step up or if you move on from Tony Pollard. I think for me that what was so impressive wasn't the running. He actually had a really nice blitz pickup, as you mentioned, but he's just such a natural receiver. Like he's so good in the flat. And what I love about him is he catches the ball in the flat and then he instantly gets up the field. And he's hard to tackle for some of these cornerbacks and safeties because he's just so stout.
He's tough out in the flat, man, because if he catches the ball and he can turn his body at all, the safeties in this league, even in the NFL, they're not necessarily ready to take on a 240-pound load. That's
he gets
coming
low,
out
like he puts his head down and gets low.
He almost gets too low and gets over his skis at times. It feels like, but I feel like, for the most part, he's really. I mean, that's the thing that really kind of stood out to me more than anything. You're right, is that he was digging passes out of the ground. Like he really made some solid catches. Like, and even though I don't know if it was the touchdown or the long catch, but that one where he caught it just like, breadbasket over the shoulder, and then just seamlessly transitioned to being a receiver. Like that's the stuff that you see at North Dakota State that made you excited about him coming in.
I think with a little bit of development, he's not there yet, but I do think he could be a Kyle Juszczyk type of player in the NFL that can just do a little bit of everything at an above average level. And if you got that type of player on your roster, that's like your 5th skill player, every game, I think it can be really dangerous. I want to talk about some of the other winners from this game. I'm going to play a little game with you though. Let's play some true or false. True or false? Awesome Richards and TJ Bass are the Cowboys' best 2 backup offensive linemen.
True. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear to me. I think Ball is a situation with his injury. Even before the injury, he really did not look at a tackle and got destroyed by Tyree.
Which we wanted to see. We wanted to see, could he hold up playing right tackle? And I think we kind of got our answer.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, so basically just everyone is counting at home. He had one very, very good game at guard and not a lot of great training camp practices and a very not good game at right tackle. So, yeah, I think at this point, Bass and Austin Richards have been the most consistent, and especially Bass, who just has been moving bodies in the inside in this game and last game.
We should mention Ball's injury really quickly. So he has a hip injury, according to Michael Galkin of the Dallas Morning News. He's going to be out about 2 months with the injury. Mm-hmm. Curious to see what the Cowboys do if they just waive him injured and have him revert back to IR, or do they keep him on the 53-man roster initially and then put him on IR just so you have another option down the road?
They could also just IR him, just like
then he'd be out for the year, right?
Yeah, because then he could just be out for the year. Well, I mean, the question is, like, do you really want to bring back a guy that's a not fully developed guard back after a hip injury, to come play? I don't know. I mean, maybe you.
I'd like to have the option too if I needed to.
I know.
I think that's the thing.
Yeah, so I guess you should kind of weigh all that on whether it's worth it to go through the roster machinations to do it. So it's just a lot to think about, honestly.
First of all, Austin Richards, a couple stats really quickly for you. He played, I believe, like 140 preseason snaps, 5 total pressures, 1 hurry allowed, 0 sacks while playing left tackle and a little bit of left guard sprinkled in there. He needs to get stronger. Like that's his one thing is he needs to add some strength to his lower body. But I think the Cowboys have something here.
Really do. I mean, I'm kind of shocked that we aren't more excited about it, honestly. Like, cause, I mean, the way he's performed as a 5th round pick rookie coming out, and he's basically done what we were freaking out about Tyler Smith being able to do last year, except just a lower rung. So, but he's still, basically going into the season as it stands right now, potentially your backup left tackle, left side player. So we'll see if that plays out, with week 1, but honestly, it's to the point now where I feel like I could be comfortable if you wanted to just go with him as the backup, because he's continuing to get better week to week. And hopefully by the time you would ever need him, he's, developed to a point where, he's ready for it.
I think he's the most surprising player for me in the preseason. I was shocked when the first game against Jacksonville that he was announced as a starter at left tackle. And for him to basically put 3 games together where he was really solid,
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing to me. So we went from thinking, okay, he's maybe a fringe roster guy, maybe somebody who needs a year on the practice squad, to he might just be your 6th best offensive lineman right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly in the conversation for sure.
And then TJ Bass, we just need to mention him quickly. Somebody who, we thought a lot of as an undrafted free agent. I think he was PFF's #1 run blocking offensive lineman coming into the draft. I was shocked at how good of a pass protector he's been so far. Did not allow a single pressure in the preseason.
Yeah, and I think it's helped having someone like Luepke next to him, honestly, who's just a kind of a wide body guy with long arms. And for Bass, you watched his Oregon tape and you felt like the reason that you really were going to get a better guard than tackle was that his issues in pass protection was when he had too much space, and he had guys that could get around him. And I think operating inside between a center and a tackle, it fits his game a lot better. And so it hides his deficiencies and accentuates his strengths. So I think he's found a fit at guard for sure.
How did Mazi Smith play in his 3rd preseason game? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is the fast and easiest way to buy tickets for all your sporting events, music, comedy, theater, all near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Actually, was just looking at tickets to go to Bills Cowboys, I think December 17th. It's absolutely fantastic. They even have like little pictures where you can see exactly what your seats look like. It's absolutely amazing. Buy tickets in just a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're all set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. It's again, I can't tell you how easy it is to buy your tickets and then have them just right there available for you. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, all you have to do is create an account, redeem promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Lana, let's talk about Mazi Smith, who really struggled in week 2 of the preseason. I thought he was significantly better this week. What did you see?
Yeah, and I think this is what we, a lot of us have been saying we thought was going to happen too, is that just it's going to be a week-to-week progression with him. He's just going to get better as he starts to see more, and I think that's what you saw. I think, look, it wasn't perfect. As the game got on, I think he got tired. I think some things reverted back to some issues where his feet would stop moving, or his focus maybe gets lost, and he doesn't see what's happening to him as quickly as he did early in the game. But I mean, early on in the game, you see him getting down the line, avoiding being scooped by the center, and then and separating and making tackles. You see him getting through the line of scrimmage and just kind of muddying the water for the reads of the running backs. There was that 3rd down stop that was made by Harper. What a play by Harper, by the way.
Yeah, we'll get to Harper. I want to talk about him in a second.
But I do think part of that was that Mazi just absolutely destroyed the center, pushed him back into the backfield, and by the time the running back got the ball, his initial read was in his lap essentially. So Harper's incredible play just kind of played out as well.
That's where you see the strength, right? Like he can, if he gets one-on-one with the center, he can just bully those guys back into the backfield. It's just everything else he's still working on.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there was some pass rushing snaps where I felt like he was able to get around this guy. They were triple teaming him at times, but there was also times when you saw him get off a block initially and then destroy a chip that was coming his way and created a pressure. I mean, maybe not pressure, but the quarterback had to get rid of the ball, So it was one of those situations where you're seeing improvement and you're seeing it every week. And the issues, what it is that we're going to see, it's about building consistency. right? Like how many consistent snaps can we get out of him this week versus last week? And I think that's what we saw, is that we saw a handful of really good snaps early on. And then as things kind of started to wear on, as he gets tired, his feet get plodding a little bit. And that's when he starts to get into a little bit more trouble and his vision kind of narrows. So he's going to continue to get better. It's going to become second nature for him as he sees more and more of these blocks and more of these schemes. And he's going to get better. But I think what we saw was like what you should be expecting, right? Like he was a first round pick playing against a bunch of guys that aren't as talented as him. And he showed that he is at least a first round pick talented. It's about showing that consistently. That's where we're at with Mazi Smith. But clearly the dude's an incredible athlete and incredibly strong.
A lot of these first round pick defensive tackle, nose tackle types have this kind of same career arc, whether it's Derek Brown, even Vita Vea, Dexter Lawrence, Quentin Williams. Like you could see the flashes of it from time to time. It's just about the down in and down out consistency, which Mazi Smith is still working on. So expect there's going to be times this year where people get frustrated with him not being more of an impactful player. Just realize like this is still a developmental pick that can help you out as a rookie. So just be patient here. I want to talk about a couple other players really quickly before we head out. You mentioned Devin Harper. Listen, I am a Jabril Cox truther. I love Jabril Cox. I love his game. But Devin Harper's better.
It's a tough thing. I want both of them, and honestly, I'm at the spot right now where I'm trying to figure out, and honestly, since you and I have talked about this topic, I've changed my mind back and forth. I still am kind of in a situation where I would like to figure out a way to get both of them, but I don't know that I want to carry both the first 53 initial roster. So
if it comes down to which one you have to pick.
Well, but see, that's not what it comes down to. That's why I think it's about which one do you think you could sneak through the waivers, right? Like, because I think those are two different things. And I think that's what makes it so difficult. I think Cox is a higher pedigree guy, and I think he's a name that a lot of these other guys know. And I think he was already underdrafted by some degree. But I think Harper is a guy that you almost can't afford to lose more than Cox because of the special teams prowess. Right. So it's tough. Like it really is, I think, a tough thing. I think that they'll probably hold their breath, cut Harper, keep Cox, and then hope that Harper clears. And I think he will.
I think it's gonna be the opposite. I think they'll hold on to Harper. Yeah. And if Jabril Cox gets claimed, he gets claimed. If not, they'll put him on the practice squad. Maybe he can somebody they bring up.
An hour from now, I'll probably agree with you. And 2 hours from now, I'll probably disagree. So
one more player. This one bothers me a little bit because I thought he played awesome. Kelvin Joseph. I know he had one offsides penalty that was dumb on third down. It happens, right? But this entire preseason, he's been excellent. I think I saw the stat: 13 targets in coverage this year or in the preseason, 24 yards allowed. Makes tackles in the run game, plays on special teams. And yet I see some prominent media members saying that he's not going to make the 53-man roster, and I just don't get it.
Yeah. I got to say, I'm feeling a sense of dissonance over him too, a little bit, because and listen, as someone who spent some time out in training camp, I can tell you that I think he's performed a little bit better in the preseason games just overall than he has in training camp, but I don't think he's been terrible in training camp. There's definitely been times when he's been eaten up, but he's also, doing one-on-ones against CeeDee Lamb and guys Cook that are very good, Brandon Cook. So, he's still an incredibly young player. That's the other thing about
23 years old.
He's still 23 years old. And I think the upside there is tremendous. And the fact that he's able to continue to, give you upside at the position while, being valuable. It's like, that's the thing. He's a valuable special teams player. Sure. He's not like a guy who can play special teams. It's like once Goodwin retires, he could be Goodwin for forever, right? If you needed him to, he's that good and he's that athletic. But there does seem to be the sense that because he's a second round pick, we haven't seen what we've expected out of him yet. But I just the idea of cutting him as it stands right now, it doesn't make sense. Because
this is the best he's ever played.
And he's starting to get it, and he's starting to play multiple positions. You see him playing nickel. You see him playing a little bit of kind of linebacker stuff a little bit. So I would keep him. He's a physical guy who can make tackles on the edge, who's not afraid to throw his body around in defense and special teams. This isn't a malcontent who is a diva. Like, he does the dirty work and he's trying to get better. So
plays hard.
I'd keep him.
Yeah, I agree. I hope the Cowboys keep him because he could fill so many roles on game day. We'll see. It's going to be a really tight cut down when it comes to the defensive backs on this roster, especially if they keep 6 safeties. So I want to let you know, everydayers, that on tomorrow's show, we're going to do some of our 53-man roster predictions. So make sure you tune into that. A special shout out to one of our everydayers, Elijah. I know his dad wanted me to give a shout out for him on the show. So thanks for listening, Elijah. Go follow the show on YouTube. Go check out the podcast wherever you get podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Go follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosier, and we'll see you guys next time.